History is changing. It is constantly evolving. In this time and in our lives, history is being rewritten not just for individuals, not even just for nations, but for the whole world. While we're living in a time when interconnectedness is higher than it has ever been before, there is a paradox that despite our shared human history, events are being reinterpreted and new narratives are established. Those honored in the previous generation is less so by the next. Statues are falling. Some are also protected. But as there's a rise of anger and hostility, as the public opinion is swinging, it reveals just how competing certain views are. And as we try to make sense of the time in which we are living in, a sense of a disillusionment that may fill our minds could perhaps be lessened by a greater willingness to perceive an argument not just from two but multiple directions and angles. Understanding that we too have a personal stake in whatever side. But as we try to incorporate multiple views into our worldview, we appreciate that it's not such an easy process, especially when it is required of us to contribute significantly towards the change of human history. Now just imagine what it was like for Abraham when it was asked of him to send away one of his own sons, Ishmael, by his wife Sarah. As these things goes, humans seek an arbitrator in resolving conflict. And so Abraham turns to God. Today, we may say, surely there's a better way, there's a more just and moral approach to addressing this situation. But Abraham eventually does send away Ishmael, along with his mother Hagar. And the process eventually even almost leads to their death. And whilst God seemingly condones Ishmael being sent away, understanding that the promise is for Isaac and for his generations, the morality of God is not singled down to just a simple conflict resolution. But God also blesses Ishmael, and for him to become a father of many nations. Just demonstrating that God doesn't necessarily favor Isaac over Ishmael. But at that point in time, history is at a junction when parallel narratives are established. Jesus' words centuries later poignantly sums up when he says that your particular side that you're going to take may just ostracize you from another community, particularly by following me, says Jesus. And it would result that you would even have to leave your father and your mother. That is such a traumatic experience when you have to leave behind your community, your customs, your sense of belonging, your culture. And St. Paul comes in and says, this is likened to being killed with Jesus as you are baptized in his name, as you choose to become his follower. For Paul, this baptism is like an ahistorical event when Christians are liberated from the enslavement of material desires. Appreciating that as humans, we are indebted to our ancestors, to our parents, to our community for our upbringing. Kierkegaard develops this understanding even further when he says that to love is the greatest indebtedness that one can have. And love and death seem to be in this paradoxical conceptual relationship. And as we try to fashion a future and in the making of history, we are similarly indebted to our children and their future, and the future that we would want for them to inherit. And so we are very much in the position of having a moral debt, which will influence our actions. It will most certainly influence our economic lives. The coronavirus pandemic has showed us that the health of an individual cannot be separated from macroeconomics. The interconnectedness of our lives is that when one area is overemphasized, a crisis may emerge. And therefore, money is not morally neutral. The control of money, the scarcity of value, and its medium of life every single day is part of every single leadership decision. And the injustice of the economic systems in which we live is the seemingly wastage and de-evaluation that so easily can be applied. As we in this generation seek to interpret and discern between the contrast of lives and livelihoods, it's causing a cultural revolution through protests, and it's causing a social revolution in the unfolding events of a new world post-COVID-19. And the point of revolution, as it were, is to undo the momentum of debt. In postmodern culture, this could be described as deconstructionism. Understanding that debt also equals profit. Credit, interest, scarcity is what produces profit. And the point is that many in this generation seek to destabilize that system in order to regain independence. The irony is that something such as systems that need to fall is not particularly new within the course of human and theological history. It started with the fall in the Garden of Eden, the fall of Adam and Eve. The Roman Empire fell. The Berlin Wall fell. Apartheid fell. Fees must fall. And so will the next system and the rest. But I think that we need to be aware that as one system replaces another, the momentum of consumption and of self-image will undo itself through self-consumption. The coronavirus pandemic is not primarily an economic crisis or even a health crisis, as much as it seems to be an ecological crisis, whereby humans seem to be unable to adapt to its environment. And this maladaptation of what we perceive to be a linear economic development, whereby we homogenize nature, when our instrumental rationality compartmentalize aspects of our lives, compartmentalize the way in which we categorize events, is resulting that the harmony of the system is breaking. It is falling apart. And this is where the economy of true charity and love should surely offer a solution. Jacques Derrida, however, says that there is no such thing as true charity, because one can never be truly free from self-serving motives. Doing charity is self-gratifying. And so what we probably need more than anything else is, again, the wisdom of Jesus' words, when he says that we are in need of a personal revolution, whereby we dethrone mammon in our lives, the god of money. an economic system of being controlled by a debt, a credit, of obligation to this momentum that enslaves our thinking that we are in control, that we are the owners that can set a price of human idealism, whether for ourselves or for others. And this is, of course, not an ideological statement. This is not socialism versus capitalism. This is about worldview, speaking about a theological debt. Because Jesus and the grace that he demonstrates is trying to pay back a debt that seems to be fully paid on the cross through his death. And that price of the debt is also measured by the value of the new life that he offers. A life that can be of us being reinvented. And grace is not a process of some radical liberation movement. Neither is it social Darwinism, nor is it secular utopia. But in this process of grace at work, there's a revolution of consciousness happening. When the momentum is slowed down. And my personal value is not wasted, but it is equal to the value that Jesus ascribes to it by the price that he pays in the giving of himself and the sacrifices that he is prepared to make for humanity and for creation to again experience that new creation. And as we, as a parish, St. George's, are coming into a period when we consider our financial lives, our contribution towards charities and especially to the church, we have to ask ourselves, what is my personal economic situation and worldview? What is the language that I speak? Can, as I listen to myself, speaking to others, what institutional transformation on a personal level needs to occur? And it leads me to think that if I need to change my life, changing and slowing down the momentum of a life of debt in which I am in, both morally, theologically, financially, how can I become truly free? And why would I want to give to the church in order to achieve such freedom? Freedom from the enslavement of this momentum of debt. And I like to think that by giving to the church personally, and maybe as you consider it, it would be the closest that I can get to that source of grace, to that place where I can understand that Jesus Christ offers a way for me to action out that grace that was given to me so that I can live in a place of being free of that enslavement. And so my giving is spiritual. My giving is from a place of worldview. My giving is transformational. That while my giving may be small, it actually is not devalued, but it's actually increasing in value. Because in the transformation of my changing from the glory to glory in the kingdom of God, my contribution is enabling others to come to a better understanding of where they are in their lives. It is a transformation that is an exponential increase of a spiritual value that changes the gratification of not necessarily just me in a positive sense, but in a self-serving sense, but also for others. so that their lives can increase in value and not decrease in this system and momentum of debt. And as we try to make sense of the world in which we're living in, I do believe that we can make a change in the cause of not just human history on a global level as we are interconnected, but for ourselves. When my value is not lessened, but increased as I live out that grace that was given to me. Amen.